Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Andrew Bone coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Today, we're talking Alabama football recruiting. We got plenty to go through. But first, definitely hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. Thank you very much for helping us get to 50,000 subscribers right here. Pretty incredible when you think about it. And now the march on to 100,000 starts right now on Bama Insider. Recently, as everybody knows, Simpson jumped on board, a big commitment to the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think someone who can certainly get this recruiting class going. It already has a little bit of momentum. And here with Andrew Bone to talk about a couple particulars. Bone, let's start talking about Ty Simpson. I mean, everybody kind of raving about his highlights. I love it. Kind of what he brings to the table. Is Alabama finished with quarterback? I know that's kind of a strange question to start out with, but they got their quarterback on board. Is there only going to be one in this class? Kind of let's go from there.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't see Alabama taking another quarterback in this 2022 class. One reason is because it's going to be a smaller class. We're not going to see 28 guys in this particular recruiting class. We're going to see I would say less than 25, but you never know how Alabama may work the numbers. They always seem to be able to work the numbers somehow. So I wouldn't put anything past them just yet. But in terms of quarterback numbers, I think Alabama's pretty much set. Now, there may be some guys who are out there that they will continue to recruit because you just never know what may happen, over the course of the year. We've seen plenty of kids, commit to programs and eventually flip. Of course, most of those commitments happen a lot earlier in the process. Ty Simpson's actually, enjoyed the recruiting process, even though he didn't get a chance to sit down with coaches in person or go to camps last year. He has been to camps in the past. He has been to different universities and spent time with coaches, prior to COVID. So it's been a pretty big. He's at least gone on a lot of big trips, throughout the last few years, and he even took a trip to Tuscaloosa and Clemson, along with Tennessee last year during the football season. So I think he saw everything he needed to see and was able to make that decision. So I don't really see any cause for concern in terms of him potentially looking elsewhere. I'm sure some schools will continue to try to recruit him, but at the same time, those schools see him as a commitment to Alabama. So they're trying to fill up, their quarterback spot in their recruiting class. So they're going to be heavily recruiting other players. So I don't really see anything changing in terms of his commitment to Alabama. And he's also an early enrollee, so that's going to be huge for Alabama to get him on campus in January. But in terms of other quarterback targets, I think we're going to probably see most of those guys start looking elsewhere because it looks like Alabama's probably only going to sign one quarterback, and they got their guy. I mean, Ty Simpson was right at the top of their list in terms of wanting and somebody that they heavily pursued for a very long time. He's the number 23 overall player in the Rivals 100. So you can pretty much consider him a five-star recruit. I know he's just a four-star there on his profile page, but everybody knows how Rivals is. They usually expand their stars a little bit later.
And that's the biggest thing we get. People, as soon as we put this video, they're going to be like, he's a five-star. Look, yes, he's a five-star composite. We get it. There's other places that rank him maybe a little bit better. That's fine.
But the funny thing is he's actually rated. If you look at the national rankings on every site, I'm not saying the composite, the average, or whatever people want to try to compare it to. You go and look at each site's actual rankings. Ty Simpson's rated higher on Rivals than any other site. He just doesn't have that fifth star, and that's what everybody. It's funny because that's what everybody cares about. Everybody cares about. Oh, you got to. He's a 5-star. Trust me, we get it. He's number 23 overall. When you're 23 overall, you're a 5-star. When the rankings get expanded, I think there's only, I want to say maybe Rivals has only done, 21, 22 5-stars to this point so far. I think maybe 22, and he's the highest rated 4-star in the country. So once it gets expanded, I think it's, they usually do about 32, 33 5-stars. He'll be in that discussion, and I don't think anything to really worry about. We consider him a 5-star. Let's just say that. We consider him a 5-star, but, it was a huge commitment for Alabama last week because, you look at, what Alabama kind of went through in terms of the coaching turnover. And it's tough when you're recruiting a high profile quarterback and you have a, coordinator change, in about a, 2-month time period where he's making a decision. Sometimes it's tough, but at the same time, it's Alabama. I mean, they're still going to be able to get, pretty much who they want. And, recruits are still impressed with Coach Saban, the Alabama program, and they know that Coach Saban's going to make the right decision. When he's when he's going after a coordinator. Obviously we've seen that over the course of the last few years. Once we've seen some new coordinators come in. Whether that was Lane Kiffin, Mike Loxley. Obviously Steve Sarkisian, and now with Bill O'Brien. I think everybody trusts Coach Saban in that regard as to who he brings in, and obviously Ty Simpson and his family felt the same way. And I had a great conversation a few weeks ago with Ty Simpson's father, Jason, who's the head coach at UT Martin. And, we had that video here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. I'm sure you can go back and watch it. And, he really talked heavily or highly, of, just that overall Alabama program, just how they were just really blown away by everything that they really experienced, not just from, visiting a few years ago, but from the Zoom calls. They were blown away by every Zoom call that they had with Alabama. I felt like after talking to his father on the interview that he was going to Alabama. Of course, we didn't know. You never know how things may go. And he continued to have conversations with Clemson, continued to have conversations with Tennessee, and he even admitted he didn't really know where he was going to choose until the night before he announced his commitment. So everybody that was, claiming they knew, he's definitely going to Alabama or he's going to Clemson, nobody really knew. His parents didn't know. Ty didn't know. Alabama didn't know. Alabama didn't find out until Friday when Ty announced his decision. So, he kept he kept everyone guessing, kind of like Terry Arnold did earlier this month when he announced his commitment on signing day, or last month. Excuse me. Now we're in March. I keep forgetting, but yeah, I mean, some of these kids like to keep it completely under wraps because they want people to be surprised. They want to enjoy that moment, and a lot of times, what we've seen. And I'm a victim of it too. I do it all the time. You see a website, a team site put in a prediction. This guy's going to Alabama, and then you start seeing other sites, make the same prediction. So all of a sudden, you have 100% of the predictions all on Ty Simpson to Alabama. There's no surprise when he announces his commitment. And these kids want to be, they want to shock the world. They want to have their moment. They want people to think it's 50-50, which according to Ty, it, pretty much was leading up until that decision. But yeah, I mean, I think that it makes it a little bit more fun. It makes it a little bit more intriguing. It makes people actually have to put in a bold prediction rather than, all right, I know where he's going to school. This is pretty easy pick once I log in my FutureCast. So it was fun the last 24 hours trying to make a firm decision on what he was going to do. And I think Alabama fans obviously were pretty excited.
Let's talk about some wide receivers. We'll stay on the offensive side as we continue to talk about the class of 2022 here with Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. You can catch all our coverage back on the website, BamaInsider.com. Definitely thank you very much for watching our show tonight. Hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 50,000 strong now right here on our YouTube channel. As you know, Alabama signed 4 Rivals 100 wide receivers. 3 out of the 4 early enrolled. Besides JoJo Earl, who you had a great interview with. I think a lot of people were really excited to hear kind of JoJo's take and the job that Holman Wiggins did. As we look to the class of 2022, who are some key targets at that position? And of course, how many will Alabama take? Your favorite question, kind of as we dig into the numbers.
Right. Well, obviously, Alabama signed a terrific wide receiver class in 2021. So this class probably going to be a little bit smaller. I don't see them signing 4 receivers. Probably going to try to sign 3. In my opinion, probably the 3 guys that I'm, watching the closest is probably, first Kevin Coleman out of St. Louis. I think that Alabama has a great chance with him. I think they're in the driver's seat. I still think he's going to wait it out a little while, potentially wait all the way until January. I think he's, as of right now, planning on announcing at an All-American game and then making that decision. So as of right now, I think Alabama is in the lead for Kevin Coleman, but other schools continue to press, and we'll see kind of what happens there. But very explosive, very electric football player. He's 5'11", 170 pounds, extremely fast, extremely quick. I think Alabama fans will really enjoy following him over the course of the next few months until he makes that decision. But I would certainly watch Kevin Coleman's recruitment. Another receiver that's an in-state target is Amari Kelly, Omari Kelly, out of Hewitt-Trussville. Really kind of blew up during his junior season. That's when he received an offer from Alabama, and really ever since then they've been pushing hard for not necessarily for a commitment, but pushing hard, for him. They really like him a lot. I think he's a great player, and certainly one of the top in-state targets for Alabama. And then probably a third receiver that I'm really watching is Berrien Brown out of Nashville, Pearl Con High School. Has Alabama as one of his top 4, top 5 schools. I actually think they're probably in the driver's seat at this time, and he's going to be making a decision, not necessarily anytime soon, but we might see something happen during the summer. May see something happen during the summer before his senior season. And as of right now, I think Alabama has a great chance to land Berrien Brown as well. So those are 3 guys, kind of off the top of my head, that I feel like Alabama may have the best chance to land it this time. There's some other receivers that are out there that Alabama's pursuing, that they're talking to, that they're evaluating. I guarantee you, we're probably going to see a few more offers during the spring, during the summer. Keep in mind, Alabama and a lot of other schools in the country are still very much in evaluation mode. They're still trying to, figure out, this 2022 class, because most of these kids still haven't been seen. They haven't been seen in person. Sure, they've been seen on film. They've seen in game film. They've had Zoom calls. They've sent in highlights. They've sent out workout highlights. They've sent a lot of stuff out, but a lot of these kids still haven't been seen actually in person by the coaching staffs throughout the country. So it was kind of disappointing, when we heard that the NCAA was extending the recruiting dead period until the end of May, because it was going to be lifted on April the 15th. Recruits were finally going to be able to start, visiting campuses again. Alabama has a spring game in April. I don't know if they were going to allow recruits to at least go to the spring game, but maybe drop in throughout the week, and they were going to allow recruits to visit campuses again, and that's not going to happen until at least June. So I think it kind of sucks for these kids. Sucks for not only the kids but the coaches, in terms of seeing them in person, evaluating them, and really getting to know them. I mean, you can only learn so much via Zoom calls. I think you really want to get a chance to see these guys in person, and meet with them, meet with their families. And so that's what so many people are just upset about, in terms of this recruiting dead period, how it continues to get extended. But as we've seen, we're starting to see states throughout the country, lift the mask ordinances. I think that's going to be probably a big plus, for recruits to start visiting campuses again. So hopefully we'll get back to normal in terms of visits, and I don't know if the big 500-600 person camps are going to happen this summer, but hopefully kids are at least going to be able to take trips down to Tuscaloosa and to various schools over the course of the next few months, or the few months of summer.
Here with Andrew Bone, talking about Alabama football recruiting. Bone, kind of when we turn the page to other key targets, one name that we've talked about several times already is Emmanuel Henderson. I believe that he is close to making an announcement, I believe, on in the middle of March. What's the latest on him? We've talked to, I think, listening to you and Chad Simmons, you guys kind of talked about his versatility, being that he's able to maybe play running back, slot. He's kind of just a multi-purpose athlete, if you will. When is his commitment date? What's the latest on Emmanuel Henderson?
Well, Emanuel Henderson is still set to announce that decision on March the 13th, and don't really see any changes in terms of my prediction. I still think Alabama's in a great position for him. I think they've been in great position with him for the last several months, and he's been playing basketball. His seasons has continued to they've continued to do really well. The Geneva County has done really well on the basketball circuit this year, so I think they're continuing to play as of right now. But Emmanuel Henderson is ready to make that decision on the 13th, and Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, all of those schools are really high on his list. But I think in the end, I think it probably ends up coming down to Alabama and Georgia. I think he really likes Georgia a lot. And, a lot of people think that it's Alabama, Auburn, because he grew up an Auburn fan. But I just think with the coaching turnover at Auburn, I think that affects his decision just a little bit. So we'll watch it pretty closely. But yeah, like you said, he does have the athletic ability to play, kind of all over. He could play receiver, could play defensive back. I think Alabama's, recruiting him as a running back, but I think they also feel like, he can move around. I don't see him as the only running back in this class. I think they'll continue to recruit, other backs. There's some other guys that are out there kind of throughout the country that we saw them extend an offer last week to Nicholas Singleton out of Pennsylvania. I think a lot of the kids are probably still, in that evaluation mode. Like I said, you still want to get seen in person. I don't know how many kids that are out there that Alabama would, could call up Alabama right now and say, hey, I'm ready to commit. Especially if they get a commitment from Emmanuel Henderson, they may kind of pump the brakes, wait a little bit, hopefully bring some kids on campus, and then make the decision of who they want to take as a second running back. But yeah, I mean, I really like Alabama's chances with Emmanuel Henderson. People always ask us, who's next? I mean, that's the question that we're asked. As soon as someone commits to a school, Ty Simpson commits to Alabama last week. There was no questions about his what he brings to the table. It was all about who's the next player to commit to Alabama, and I kind of fall into this trap sometimes where as soon as someone commits, all right, who are the next 4 or 5 kids that are going to commit to Alabama or make decisions? Well, this is certainly a weird year because 2022 kids, they just haven't been able to, take a lot of visits. They haven't taken many trips. And I think that's a big reason why we saw Jeremiah Alexander, the former Alabama commitment, back off his commitment because he hadn't taken any trips. And he has all these offers, wants to get recruited, wants to enjoy the process, never really got to do that. So I think a lot of these kids are really wanting to do it this year in terms of, wait it out, wait until, maybe the summer and take these trips that hopefully they're going to be able to go on before making decisions. But also at the same time, coaches are trying to evaluate kids and not rush into taking a bunch of early commitments and making sure they're making the right decisions. So, every time we see, a kid commit, it's, who are the next 5 commitments? Well, don't worry about the next 5. Worry about the next one. Emmanuel Henderson's that one guy that, I see committing in the next couple of weeks. In terms of some other guys that are out there that, may be close to making decisions, I don't really see any other guys that are making decisions anytime soon. I know, TJ Dudley, linebacker out of Montgomery Catholic, has been mentioned before. I don't see him making a decision anytime soon. He keeps getting brought up, but he's not making a decision anytime soon. I think he's going to wait it out. I think he's going to try to go to some, not necessarily go to camps, but go on some visits, get seen in person by some coaches this summer. Somebody mentioned on our board the other day, Kamari Wilson, a safety out of IMG Academy. I don't see him, not necessarily making a commitment, but I don't see him committing to Alabama anytime soon. So I would watch Emmanuel Henderson, pretty much the main guy I would watch right now. There's one other kid out of Las Vegas. Now, he hasn't visited, but, Alabama extended him an offer about a month ago. And ever since then, there's been a lot of contact, a lot of interest. And that's Jake Taylor. He's certainly somebody that I would watch pretty closely, just in terms of, he could end up at Alabama. I don't know when he'll make a decision, but has Alabama in his top 3 along with Oklahoma and Notre Dame. Could end up at one of those other 2 schools. I know he has a great relationship with the coaches at those staffs. And obviously, you look on his player profile, Notre Dame is a 100%. But like I said, Alabama made that offer about a month ago, and ever since then, they've really turned up the heat with him. So he's certainly somebody that I would, keep an eye on in the coming months. But in terms of making a commitment in the next month, the only one I really see is Emmanuel Henderson making that decision. I don't see anybody else committing. And like I said, a lot of that has to stem from Alabama being a little bit more patient, and they can afford to do that because they're Alabama. They don't have to take a bunch of commitments early on or wrap things up. They can stretch it out. We kind of saw this last year. And I don't know if it was necessarily Alabama. I think they were kind of waiting for a couple kids to jump on board, and we were in. I think it was maybe about April 10th, and Alabama had one commitment. People weren't really sure if this was going to be the recruiting class that that kind of ended things for Alabama, ended the run because they just couldn't get anybody on board. We kept saying, "Be patient." Commitments are going to come. None of the key targets are making decisions yet, and they hadn't. And obviously, we saw what Alabama was able to do, signing the highest ranked recruiting class of all time. Kind of the same approach this year. They have more commitments now than they did April 1st last year, and we're only in March right now. So I think Alabama is going to be just fine on the recruiting front, but we're also not seeing any of their key targets making decisions yet. So that's another big plus for Alabama. And I think, they're going to be very, very careful, very cautious as to who they take early commitments from, once again, because this is going to be a little bit, of a smaller class than what we've seen in the past. And, like I said, they can afford to do that. They still want to see a lot of kids throughout the country. And they also have several new coaches on the coaching staff who are trying to develop relationships with kids, trying to evaluate and trying to make sure that they're going after the right prospects.
Here with Andrew Bone talking Alabama Crimson Tide football recruiting. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We appreciate you being part of that 50,000 subscriber club right here on BamaInsider.com. This is the current commitment list of the class of 2022. Don't freak out. They're 14th last year. I think at this time, Bone, what were they, like 73rd or something like that? So,
if that.
Yeah, they were far back. People were freaking out. But now, we continue to roll. Bone, one more guy that I wanted to talk to you about, and that is Denver Harris. Denver Harris is a guy that I think I've seen you write about a couple times on the premium message boards. Kind of what's the latest on him, and kind of give the fans maybe something to watch for. And if Alabama does have it, obviously Alabama has a chance with anybody, but sometimes it doesn't work out for whatever reason. But what's kind of the latest on class of 2022 cornerback out of Houston, Texas?
Yeah, the five-star corner, one of the best overall prospects in the country. And we saw what Alabama was able to do in Texas last year, signing 7 players from the Lone Star State, and they're going after many again in this class. And Denver Harris certainly, one of those guys. And he's also visited Tuscaloosa in the past, so it's not like he hasn't seen the campus or anything before. So he's very familiar with Alabama. He also has a couple teammates who are at Alabama, a couple former teammates who play with him, 2 offensive linemen, and Damian George and Jaden Roberts. So, they're telling him plenty about Alabama. So, also trying to recruit him to join them. But, Alabama certainly is high on his list. Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M. Obviously, Steve Sarkisian and his coaching staff want to make a big splash in the state of Texas this year, and they're already off to a pretty hot start. And Denver Harris certainly one of their top overall targets. But talking to Sam Spiegelman, who covers Texas, Louisiana for Rivals, does such a great job. We've had him on our show plenty of times. He believes that Alabama's probably in the driver's seat for him. He thinks that he's certainly leaning towards playing in the SEC, and has weekly Zoom calls with Alabama. Has a really strong connection with the coaching staff. But like I said, also a couple teammates who are one there now, one going there here in the summer. So I think Alabama has a great chance with him, and this is going to be interesting to see what happens in the defensive backfield in this class, because as we know, Alabama signed a tremendous defensive back class last year, led by JaQuincy McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, Kyrie Jackson, Devontae Smith. Just a great overall group, and I think that this year they're still going to be going after some big names, and Denver Harris certainly a key target for them, and certainly somebody that they want to add in this class. I think they're going to try to sign 4, maybe even 5 defensive backs yet again, and he's right at the top of the list.
Wow. Well, great update there, Bone. Big update on 5-star Denver Harris, certainly a name to keep tabs on. Well, everybody, you guys know what to do. Definitely hit the thumbs up. Be like Saban right there, and hit the thumbs up. like, and subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. 50,000 subscribers, and that is just the beginning. We want to get to 100,000 and beyond that right here on BamaInsider.com. I know we're just turning the page to March. You got spring football starting on March 19th, so definitely hit the subscribe button so you can always be notified when we drop an Alabama football video. You can catch all the rest of our coverage back at BamaInsider.com. Remember, the promo code is simply Roll Tide. We got you covered on all fronts. Got a podcast. We got YouTube. We got Bama Insider. You got social media. So all that, definitely check us out. We appreciate you, plain and simple. So thank you very much for being part of our show. This is our recruiting show. We'll be back with tons more content on BamaInsider.com. Have a blessed rest of your weekend. We'll catch you soon back at BamaInsider.com.